Hello and welcome. It's actually really exciting to be here. I've done so much planning and thinking and organising in the last month to get us going. It's actually really exciting to be here doing it. I thought I'd start just very quickly introducing myself because I don't know many of you. And also just to give you a little level of comfort that Jeff hasn't asked some random off the street to come in and wreak havoc with MWLAC's training. So I guess a few things that I'd share with you that are relevant to this gig from my experience. One being that I have lots and lots of experience learning track and field. I'm a masters athlete myself. I took it up 11 years ago. And 5 years later, I won my first world title in the heptathlon, and then in the 400 metre hurdles, and then in the indoor sprint hurdles. So I know what it's like to learn this stuff from zero. And I love learning it. And I've had access to some amazing people to learn from. So I was coached for a couple of years by the indomitable Jana Pittman in the 400 hurdles and sprinting. I was coached for a short time by Mike Hurst, who, if any of you follow athletics, you might know he coached a guy by the name of Darren Clark, who 30 years later still holds the Australian record in the 400 metres. And currently I'm coached by a guy named Andreas Beam, who coached a fellow by the name of Aries Merritt, which, if any of you know that name, he holds the world record for the men's sprint hurdles. And that just saw its 10-year anniversary. So I've had some absolutely amazing people to learn from, coaches, ex-athletes, and I've done a lot of the learning myself. So I know what these athletes have got before them and the challenges that go along with that. I also have a background in human resources, learning development, executive coaching, leadership development, that kind of thing. So learning is my gig. I love it. So just so that you know, I'm not some kind of random off the street. Secondly, I'd like to just talk a little bit about the two big changes from the way that MWLAC has done things in the past. Obviously, you know one of them, we're limiting group size and we're doing training blocks. And the idea there is that anything that you perform, especially at speed, takes repetition to learn it. And it especially takes repetition to learn it well enough to perform it under pressure in competition. So coming out and doing one training session in something that has some kind of technical element to it, it just won't translate to implementing that under pressure in a competitive environment. So repetition is an incredibly important part of learning technical skills. And so obviously this 4-week block with the same event, the same coach, the idea is we might actually have enough opportunity for repetition and building on the basics to be able to have the kids perform better in their competitions. So that's the structure, but you've probably read my emails and already have a bit of a feel for that. The second thing, which I haven't talked about in the emails yet, and that actually involves everyone. It involves the athletes, it involves our coaches, and it involves the parents. And that is, we're going to be really focused on my one thing. So every athlete is going to have their one thing that is the thing in their event that they're focusing on improving. Now, coaches are going to be introducing competencies over the 4 weeks, but as you go, they're going to be doing their best for every athlete to identify what's the one thing that if this kid could improve it and do that in competition, it will make the biggest difference to them in their performance. So our coaches are going to be putting, lots of effort into doing that for all of your kids. Athletes, you have a big role in this. When your coach tells you what your one thing is, you got to own it. You got to remember it, because your coaches are going to have somewhere between 7 and 11 other kids who are lining up and ready to go and watching them and giving them feedback too. So when it's your turn to go, your coach might turn to you and say, right, remind me, what's your one thing? And you need to be able to tell them. Okay, so when your coach gives you one thing, you've got to remember it so that you can remind them. Parents, you've also got a role in this. Because repetition is such an important part of learning, when you're driving your kids home, ask them, what's your one thing? If you're watching them compete on the weekend at Little A's, before they go out to warm up, remind them, what's your one thing? What are you going to try and do that you did at training the other day? And after they compete, and I suggest before giving your feedback, ask, how'd you go with the one thing? Because that helps start to build a mindfulness habit in terms of being aware of what they're doing with their bodies. And then they may or may not remember. That's okay. The process of trying to remember is what we want to start doing. And then, obviously you can share your feedback about what you saw on their one thing. So if their one thing in the sprinting might have been nice strong arms, hands hip to lip, because maybe you were running like this before, right? When you're sprinting, you want nice strong arms, hip to lip with the hands. So if that's your one thing, Mum and Dad at the weekend can watch you do that, and they can give you feedback on how it went. So coaches are going to be focused on one thing, kids, you're going to be focused on your one thing, and parents, you can help with repetition on this as well. Okay, so that's the main things that I wanted to cover with you in terms of how we're going to run the start of each session. When 6 o'clock comes around, I'll jump on the microphone and let you know where session's starting. What we want all kids to do is 2 laps of general warm-up to start with, and I've got some hurdles with signs on them around the track. So start here, you do, it says run on that hurdle there. You run around to the next hurdle, which is over at the 200 metre mark that says walk, and then there's another hurdle over at the 100 metre mark that says skip. So we're going to do a run for 200 metres, walk around the bend, and then skip down. Perhaps on your second lap, you might run a little bit faster in your run. Doesn't have to be flat out, just a nice pace. So you'll do as soon as I let you know that the session started, you go out, you do your 2 laps of warm-up, and then you're going to join your coach. So what I'm going to do as my last thing before we get going is just introduce you all to your coaches, so that you know once you've done your 2 general laps, you know who to go to start your session. And they're going to do a little bit more warm-up with you that's more specific to your event, and then you'll get into your session. Okay, so I'm hoping all the kids know what event they're doing and who their coach is. So, why don't we start at the other end of the line? Who is doing high jump with Matt Tilley? Okay, that's Matt on the end, and he's going to be waiting for you over there near the high jump bags. Who is doing long jump with Ryan? Yep, some hands around the place. That's Ryan with the arm in the sling, and you're going to be using the pit down there. He's going to be waiting for you on that pit over there. It's the only one that's not underwater. Who's doing high jump with Mitch? Yep, that's Mitch with the bungee around his neck there, and he's going to be waiting for you over at the high jump bags as well. Who's doing shot put with Philippa? Yeah, Philippa's the one in the black visor, and are you going to be up the back here or? Yeah? Okay, so Philippa will wait for you at least while the light holds out at the shot put circles up the back, so behind the track and up the little hill. She'll wait for you up there. Who have we got next? Jasmine. Who's doing sprints with Jasmine? Great. That's Jasmine there in the grey tights. And Jasmine's going to be waiting for you here at the finish line. You're going to be running that way with her. Who's doing, where are we? Taya. Who's doing hurdles with Tia? We didn't think we were going to have hurdles today, but Tia's university switched dates on it. So who's doing hurdles with Tia? Taya. Great. So that's Taya there with the glasses on her head, and she's going to be waiting over by the back coverall there, because that's where the hurdles are in that shed. Who's doing walks? Yep, good. We've got Hannah and Carmel here are both taking you together. So, and you're going to wait over on the back straight, on the back bend. Okay, over near the 200 metre mark. She'll be waiting for you over there. And who's doing sprints with Dave?
Me!
And he's the only one left, so you can probably guess that's Dave. So he'll be waiting for you down at the beginning of the 100-metre start line. Okay, any desperately urgent, important questions before we get going? Awesome, let's go.
Only 2 laps.
I know. That's so cool. Go.